Hello Whisperers, I'm your host Dr. Fee and this is the Whispering Podcast. Today, on this special episode, we step inside one of the most controversial, most documented and most disturbing paranormal cases in modern British history. Do you know what I'm talking about? That's right, we're talking the Enfield Poltergeist. So much has already been spoken about it, but you can't have a podcast even remotely connected to the paranormal without talking about the Enfield Poltergeist. I can't speak, I'm so excited. Right, sort your life out, Fee, let's go. It all began way back in 1977. A single mother, 4 children and a modest council house in North London. See, I'm so excited I can't speak. Come on, you can do this. Sort your life out. Easy for you to say. It began way back in 1977. A single mother, 4 children and a modest council house in North London. What followed were nearly 2 years of haunting, levitating children, thrown furniture, voices speaking through a young girl, an entire nation divided, team believer and team skeptic. Was it a hoax, mass hysteria, or was something speaking through the cracks? In this special episode, we'll walk through the full timeline of the case, explore first-hand accounts, listen to the theories from psychological to metaphysical, and examine why this haunting refuses to be forgotten. So, take my hand and let's begin at number 284, Green Street, Enfield, London. I'm so excited. The beginning. It's August 1977. Peggy Hodgson, a single mum of 4, lives with her children in a semi-detached council house. That night, 11-year-old Janet and her sister Margaret, 13, called their mum upstairs. Their beds are moving on their own. Now, that in itself is just bizarre. I'm not sure if that's on my glasses or on the camera lens. Sorry if I'm a bit blurred. Hang on. I think it might be my glasses. Yeah, it's my glasses. And that is very disturbing in itself, isn't it? When your 11-year-old and your 13-year-old are saying, Mum, the beds are moving by themselves, because with all rational thought in the world, beds don't move by themselves. Maybe it is the camera. Is that better? Yeah, that's a bit better. Who knows? What would you think if your child came and said to you, Mum, my bed's moving by himself? What would you say? You'd be like, oh, pack it in, little Johnny. You're talking nonsense, aren't you? That's what you'd say. At first, Peggy thinks they're playing a trick on her, but then she sees a chest of drawers slide across the room by itself. She tries to push it back and says an invisible force pushes it forward again. They flee, and I think you probably would. They go to the neighbour's house and the police are called. WPC Carolyn Heaps arrives and later reports witnessing a chair slide across the floor unaided. She checks for wires or hidden entities. No, that's wrong, because it's not entities. It's the wrong word. Sort your life out. Where am I going to? WPC Carolyn. WPC Carolyn Heaps arrives and later reports witnessing a chair slide across the floor unaided. She checks for wires or hidden anythings, but there was nothing. This was just night 1. The Society for Psychical Research. I'm not sure if I've spelt that right, said that right. We had this problem before when I was talking about Bordesley Abbey. I get in my own head. And I'm not sure if I'm saying the words right, because it's like, is that the right way of saying it? Psychical. What is that saying?
Psychical.
I was right. Oh, why do I doubt myself? It's so annoying, isn't it? So annoying. The Society for Psychical Research. Nope. Let's start again. The Society for Psychical Research. Word spreads fast, and within days, the Daily Mirror and the Society for Psychical Research are involved. Now, the SPR, in my opinion, are one of the most underrated societies for anything to do with paranormal in the United Kingdom. They are amazing, and if you've never looked at their research, their resources, and even just their website, it's just filled with tons of stuff, and I highly recommend that you go and have a look. It's very, very good. Enter Maurice Grosse, a researcher with a personal reason for pursuing the paranormal. His daughter had died in a motorbike accident just the year before. He is joined by Lyon Playfair, a writer and long-time investigator. Over the next 14 months, Grosse and Playfair witness and record phenomena including tapping, knocking that actually responds intelligently, furniture flipping over and levitating, objects being thrown across rooms, not just a single room, multiple rooms, cold spots, sudden temperature drops, and unexplained puddles, disembodied voices coming from Janet, but not always within her control. They collected hundreds of hours of audio recordings, photographs, and first-hand reports from neighbours, journalists, and even local council members. And Janet, it seems, is at the centre of it all. The voice of Bill. Perhaps the most chilling aspect of the Enfield case is the voice. From deep within Janet's throat came a harsh, gravelly growl, claiming to be Bill Wilkins, a man who said he died within their house. In one recording, the voice says, quote, "Just before I died, I went blind, and then I had a hemorrhage, and I fell asleep, and I died on a chair in the corner downstairs." End quote. The detail is eerie, and then it gets even eerier. It's confirmed. A man named Bill Wilkins did live in the house and died exactly the way the voice said. Could Janet have known? That is the big question. The family claim they've never heard of him or his story. The voice was sometimes aggressive, sometimes mocking. It interrupted conversations, shouting obscenities and even sang nursery rhymes in a broken rasp. Speech therapists were baffled. They said it was physically impossible for Janet to maintain that voice without damaging her vocal cords. Yet she did. What do you make of that? When I was doing the research for this, I'd forgotten about the confirmation of Bill's death. I'd completely forgotten it, and to me it is a very startling aspect that perhaps needs a bit more investigation. You know, could Janet or the family have overheard the story of Bill's death from one of the neighbours? You know, children are always listening, aren't they? Adults have conversations, perhaps sitting in the kitchen having a cup of tea. Children do overhear, and they pick up on things. Whether they're consciously aware of that is again up for debate. So for me, that would absolutely have been an area of investigation. Did the neighbours know of Bill's death? Were they there when he died? Did they speak of Bill's death to the family, although the family is saying they didn't know about it? You know, it could have been like an offhand comment during a conversation. I think it needed to have more of a poke than was actually given. So let's move on. Evidence or a hoax? Investigators recorded levitations, objects flying, curtains twisting, beds shaking. One famous photo shows Janet apparently mid-air, as if thrown from her bed. Now that photograph is very, very famous, and I do not own the copyright, so I can't place the photograph in the show notes for this episode. But if you want to go and see it, just Google the Enfield Poltergeist and up will come the photograph of Janet flying through the air. It's incredibly famous, and the negatives have been thoroughly investigated and they have not been tampered with. She is flying mid-air when that photograph was taken. It's very, very interesting. But critics say, as they always do, because we do love a critic, and I like to sit on the fence when it comes to these things, that within the photograph, Janet is jumping, that the photos are staged. Skeptics argue that the family was seeking attention, the girls were acting out, and even the investigators were too emotionally involved. I think I said emotionally. I think that was the Forest Dean there coming out. Sorry. Indeed, Janet later admitting to faking a few events, but insisted that most were genuine. She said, quote, "I'd say 2% of it was fake. The rest was real. I didn't have to do anything. It just happened." End quote. Even Playfair, who co-wrote "This House is Haunted," acknowledged the trickery, but stood by the bulk of the activity. The case divided public opinion. Was it mass hysteria, a prank that got out of hand, or something authentic? And here's the thing, a little bit like the Bordesley Rectory case where we did the special 2-part episode. I think as soon as people admit that there is enhancements, is that a good word? Enhancements to evidence that's been recorded or found. In other words, what I'm trying to say is people have drip fed or staged evidence. As soon as that's been admitted, it puts the seed of doubt into your mind about the rest of the case, doesn't it? It's like, you know, what can be trusted? Don't know. What about the cultural impact? The Enfield Poltergeist became a media sensation within its time. BBC Radio attempted to record audio, but the tapes mysteriously erased themselves. Channel 4 and ITV both ran special features. In 2015, Sky Living dramatised the events in the Enfield Haunting, starring the absolutely talented Timothy Spall. The Conjuring 2 brought a hollow... No, I should have paused. I don't know where I've got to. I think I'm right at the very start. I'm so sorry. You're going to have to listen to me say that all over again.
What about the cultural impact?
You are. That was my own fault. I went too far without stopping. Sorry. Got too involved in the story. What about the cultural impact? The Enfield Poltergeist became a media sensation within its time. BBC Radio attempted to record audio, but the tapes mysteriously erased themselves. Channel 4 and ITV both ran special features. In 2015, Sky Living dramatised the events in the Enfield Haunting, starring the immensely talented Timothy Spall. The Conjuring 2 brought a Hollywood twist, fictionalising elements but introducing a global audience to the story. And most recently, the case was explored by Danny Robbins in the absolutely amazing Uncanny podcast, re-examining the evidence with modern ears and minds. If you have never listened to Uncanny, I highly recommend it. I am absolutely obsessed with it. I have listened to all the specials. I've listened to all the episodes. Amazing. Absolutely amazing podcast. Well done, Danny. You are doing some amazing work. The case refuses to die. Like the voice of Bill, it keeps speaking. So let's have a look at this case from a metaphysical point of view. What is really happening at Enfield?
So let's have a look at...
Not happy with that, sorry guys. So what is really happening at Enfield? Was it a ghost? A trauma response? A tulpa? A psychic projection? Through a metaphysical lens, we can consider a few possibilities. If you've been a long-standing listener to the Whispering podcast, you will know when we talk about energy and storage of energy and energetic release, and that is one of the things that it could possibly be. So a poltergeist as an energetic release. Many believe the poltergeist activity is a form of psychokinesis, unconscious mind over matter, especially during adolescence or emotional stress. Janet was just 11 years old, grieving a fractured family dynamic. Could she have manifested the chaos? It's a really good question, that is. Really good. I think it's a very strong possibility. We do not know enough about the mind and how it works and what it can and cannot do. It's something that absolutely, in my opinion, needs massive input in terms of funding to be able to investigate the true capability of the mind. Energy, no, that's completely the wrong word. Absolute nonsense. The word I'm trying to say is entity, not energy. Entity attachment. Others suggest an actual spiritual entity latched on to Janet, not a dead man, but something using Bill as a mask. That is a very dark theory. Residual energy or liminal space. The house, the land, the emotions. Could they have been combined to open a portal, a window of sorts, where energy acted out of sync with time? Collective manifestation. The sheer attention on the house, media, investigators, psychics, may have fed the phenomena, turning it into a conscious energy capable of sustaining by belief. In this example, belief isn't delusion, it's actually activation. It's interesting, isn't it? I just find it so interesting. I don't know what the right answer is, and I'm not sure if we are going to know what the right answer is. The Enfield Poltergeist happened in 1977. So what's happened to the family now? Janet left the house in her teens. In later interviews, she remained reserved but consistent. She believed the hauntings were real and that she was at the epicentre of it all. Margaret, her sister, echoed the same thoughts. Peggy Hodgson, the mother, lived in the house until her death in 2003. Activity reportedly slowed but never Subsequent tenants claim to experience cold spots, whisperings, and shadow movements, though nothing as intense as the original haunting. The house still stands today, quiet and watching. So these are my closing thoughts. The Enfield Poltergeist case is far from conclusive. It walks the line between hoax and haunting, psychology and parapsychology. But what remains undeniable is this: something happened at number 284 Green Street. Something witnessed by dozens of people, recorded, studied, debated, and still, all these years later, remembered. Maybe it was a cry for help. Maybe it was grief made physical. Or maybe, just maybe, it was exactly what it appeared to be: a voice from the void. Thank you so much for listening to today's Whisper. If you have any stories you'd like to share or thoughts on today's episode, let us know at hello@thewhisperingpodcast.co.uk. Don't forget to like this episode, and definitely don't forget to hit subscribe before you leave. Until next time, sleep well.